Isn't it ironic that the happiest 2 days of your parents' lives were the day you were born and the day you finally left home? It's true. After all the time and money they spent, boy, were they glad to get rid of you. Madam Toastmaster, where did she go right? Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests, if you were anything like me, that feeling is actually quite understandable. You see, as a kid, my departure from anyone's house was always accompanied by shouts of joy. You've met kids like that, right? The type that discouraged their parents from having any more. The type that no sane person would dare babysit. That was me. And after 19 long years of wreaking havoc, I left my home of Zimbabwe and traveled all the way to Middletown, Connecticut for college. On that hot Southern African day, my mother stood at the airport departure terminal, unable to hold back her tears. She hugged me in her gentle arms and made one simple request. Son, please call home often. My dad hugged me and said, Nana boy, make us proud. As the British Airways 747 pierced the clouds to begin my 8,000-mile journey to freedom and independence, my mind became engrossed with thoughts of all my little childhood tricks. Like the time my 2-year-old brother said, Nana, I'm thirsty, and I tricked him into drinking shampoo. Or the Thanksgiving morning at my uncle's house in New York, when everyone was frantically looking for me, only to find my 4-year-old little body hiding in the oven. Years later, my mother would almost lose her mind whenever she came home unexpectedly to our loud, bumping, thumping, ground-shaking hip-hop music. The only louder sound was a screaming voice, Turn it down right now or I'll kick you out of this house! With all the gray hairs I placed on my loving parents' heads, you would think I'd have had the decency to call them at least once in a while. Do you know how many times I called them that entire first semester? I didn't. With each semester that passed, I tried to call home more often, but I knew I could still do better. And then, just like that, my junior year arrived and I became a math major. A decision that completely changed my life. Not because abstract algebra and number theory are particularly interesting, but because of the friendship with my faculty advisor, Ray Michael Short. Whenever I couldn't figure out my number theory homework, Ray would comb his fingers through his long black beard, look at me with his 40-year-old eyes and say, Come on, Nana. Let me show you how to do it. Wow. Now, come here, be honest. Wasn't your math homework always easier when someone did it for you? The answers came to his brain with ease, but he struggled to write them down. When the work was finished, he would look at me and say, Hey, Nana, join my wife and me on Saturday for dinner. Nothing formal, say 7. Do you know how many times I showed up at Ray's house for dinner? I didn't. 2 months before graduation, I received this note from him. Nana, I'm off to Germany for a project. Good luck to you. Please stop by soon, because I will not be here for your graduation. Ray. By the time I put final semester distractions aside and knocked on his door, he was gone. Luckily, our paths crossed randomly in downtown Middletown, 48 days after my graduation. We made plans to get together, and I thought, finally, yes, Nana, you can thank Ray for everything that he's done for you. That day never came. You see, Ray's hands shook because he suffered from a chronic progressive disability that had traumatized and frustrated him for years. On Sunday, July 11th, 1999, only 2 days after our brief encounter, and in the very building where he had shown me how to do my number theory homework, Ray Michael Short ended his frustration by taking his life. got to say thank you. I never got to say goodbye. That night, the night that Ray buried all his goals, hopes, and dreams, I realized how insignificant and inconsequential my priorities had been, and I called home. But before any words could leave my mouth, my mother said, "Hey, son, I was just about to call you. You know, ever since your brother left home for college last year, the house just seems so empty, so quiet. Remember how I used to threaten to kick you guys out because of your loud music? Well, now that you're both actually gone, I wish I could feel the bass. In fact, I often wish I had just let the music play." My mother's words brought tears to my eyes because I realized that her tears on the day that I left home were tears of missed meals together, tears of unuttered words, tears of unsung songs. Then it hit me that for years I'd been so deeply immersed in the song of my aspirations, my joy, my life, that the only music I'd ever bothered to listen to or sing was my own. I had forgotten that the song of life is meant to be composed with actions as simple as calling home or visiting a dear friend for the last time. Who's waiting for your call? Who's waiting for your visit? With whom should you be composing your song? Call, visit, sing with them the song of life. AdvTM. We don't have to get up. That's just the end of the speech. The end of the formal speech. That was my 2009 district winning speech. And I prepared a speech for tonight that would come after that speech, and then I read the agenda, and the agenda actually was suitable to how I thought we could go through this, because you probably have questions about competing, about putting content together. So I can tell you my story of how I joined Toastmasters in 2006 and started competing in 2007. What that looked like competing in 7, 8, 9, and 10, how I created my content. I have 3 pillars for you today, 3 pillars for success in speech contests, content delivery, etc. And so we can do it. I can tell you my story certainly, but I think we should really maximize the interaction with your questions. So it can be like one long story with one long Q&A. How does that sound? I'm sure you have your questions ready. So that was my 2009 speech. And let's start then by opening it to the floor for any questions that you may have about that speech. And then I'll answer the questions with the story going down memory lane from 2007 through 2010. So go ahead. Yes.
So that was your actual speech.
That was my actual speech.
So in retrospect, is there anything you would have done differently?
Since that's how I delivered it almost verbatim in 2009, what happens at the district level is that you've delivered the speech at the club, area, and division and received constant feedback for improvement. So that was the best that I delivered it, with Dave's feedback, Coleen's feedback, a lot of other Toastmasters who helped me, videotape me, etc. So if I were to resurrect that speech for another contest and in another district or some other time, then I'd have to receive more critique because I didn't have it evaluated after the district level, because then I had to move on with another speech. So I've thought about resurrecting it if I compete again, and at that point I'll need to think about how I can make it different, because people may remember it from then, and there are always ways in which you can improve it. So I don't know if I can think right now about what what I would do differently. There's one thing, I like to uncover a lot of humor in my speeches, and I didn't have that speech on April 25th, 09 videotaped, but I had it audio taped. Someone audio taped it and sent me the MP3. And there were about 3 or 4 laughs. I mean, it's serious, Ray Short died, and so on. But usually in my speeches, for example, my district winning speech in 2007, which I'll talk about, called Don't Be Fooled, it was filled with laughter. It could even have been confused for a humorous speech. And I like to make fun with the audience and so on. So even though the topic is very serious because of what happened to Ray, one change that I may make would be to have some more opportunities for humor, just to balance the seriousness and the suicide a little bit. Yeah. What's your name?
Pat.
Pat. Thank you, Pat.
So now, how do you choose content?
It's tough. So when I wrote my culture speech in 2007, I just treated it like any of my CC manual speeches. I wrote it on a Saturday. It's like, oh, this would be cool. You know, advertisers are always talking about easy ways, get rich quick schemes, and I hate all that. So let me just write a speech about that, and then I delivered it on Thursday, and I knew nothing about going from the club level to the area level to the division. I just wrote the speech, right? But after 2007 now, when I realized that, oh man, you can become quite popular with this stuff. Now there were more stakes. So I started thinking about it too deep. I want to get the topic. What should I what's the new thing? I just think about the things that are relevant in my life, the things that drive me, the things that I talk about. The things that you talk about at the barbershop or at the poker table, the things where, that's a great idea. That's a great story. You think that it's just your friends, so they're saying that, right? But if those stories resonate with the people at your family reunion, at the barbershop, at the hair salon, ladies as well, the hair salon, I shouldn't just focus on barbershop. Those stories will resonate with your audience as well. So, what are you passionate about? What do you talk about? Ed, what would you talk about when we went to lunch? Those same stories will mean a lot to your audience. So I just think about the things that have happened in my life and what points I can make with those stories. So let's say something happens with your child or with your grandchild and you have a story. You think, wow, that's a great story. And what point goes with that? What point goes, so Ray committed suicide. Okay, so on that story on its own, that's okay, fine. And this speech started with the title, Let the Music Play, because this is an old song, Let the Music Play, etc., that I used to listen to. And after I got it critiqued, think about a week or so before the contest, someone said this is more about dancing, dancing with somebody to a song. What kind of song? That's when I thought, wow, the song of life. And I tweaked the ending a little bit and let that weave throughout. So just experiences, and then in terms of the audiences, what resonates with them, what resonates with your friends, those are the same things because it's the same, we're all people. So. Richard.
I'm curious as to your thoughts. In my mind, there are 2 things you do when you give a speech. I mean, there are many, many subparts to that, but there is what you say and then how you deliver it.
Yes.
And I'm wondering, the people that go on and win these contests, is it more important to have great content or is it more important to have great delivery? I mean, if you could have one or the other, what would you want to have? And then, what could you do to be able to deliver the content better? I mean, you're masterful at pausing and moving about the room and engaging people, and then there's this wonderful story that you tell. But what in your mind is more important, and how do you tell a better story, and how do you present a better speech? And
Okay, good. Those are very, very good questions, Richard. In 2008, I wrote a speech called Come Home, and it was about valuing the things that are important to you. When I was a kid, I took my dad's Mercedes joyriding and got caught. Right? So talked about those kinds of experiences and how it's so important to come home. I used to carpool. I work at Beringer Ingelheim at full time, and I used to carpool with somebody, and he was trying to show off what his car does at 3,000 RPM, and we got into an accident. And we actually both should have been killed in that accident. And after the airbags deployed and everything, the first thing that came out of his mouth was, "No lawsuit, right?" And it was like, "Are you serious?" And my wife was pregnant with my first son, and we just finished doing all the life insurance, but I hadn't signed the papers. So my wife was like, "Did you sign those papers?" This guy is asking me about I know, right? This guy is asking me about lawsuit. My wife is asking me if I signed the papers. Does anyone care whether or not I'm okay? Sheesh. So I wrote all that into the come home speech, right? And I delivered that speech and I won the district in 2008. And I decided to use that speech again for the regional, which is the semifinals now, and I'll explain the whole structure in 2009. When I wrote Come Home, my friend David Brooks, the 1990 world champion of public speaking, said it wasn't a good speech. He's a journalist and he's an excellent writer, he's an excellent speaker. He's all about the grammar and the flow and the alliteration. So he gave me those lines in this speech where I said that when after Ray buried all his goals, hopes, and dreams, I realized how insignificant and inconsequential. David Brooks gave me that because he likes how things like that weave. He said Come Home wasn't a good speech. I ignored him and went with it in 2008. In 2009, I resurrected Come Home for the regional contest in Canada, all the way to Canada, and delivered my best rendition of Come Home. Now, the most nerve-wracking part of the international speech contest, and any speech contest for that matter, is the announcement of the winners. Right? Because when they say in third place, you're like, don't say my name, don't say my name. They don't say it. And then second place, and they don't say it. And my experience was, if they said the third place and didn't say my name, they said the second place and didn't say my name, it was basically time to stand up and go get my trophy. Right? That's how I felt. And I'm not saying it to be boastful, that's just what my experience had been. So I'm in Canada, resurrected Come Home, and said the third place speaker tonight, Mark Laverne. Good. Second place speaker, I don't remember his name, right? Some guy from Maryland. Excellent. And ladies and gentlemen, fellow Toastmasters and friends, in first place tonight, who will go on to the World Championship of Public Speaking. And this was going to take place here at Foxwoods in Connecticut. I mean, dream come true. First place this evening, Mary Sheeny. What? What the heck is this? I mean, I didn't place. I didn't place. No trophy, no opportunity to speak the home turf. So it was a humbling experience, Richard, but if you look at the judges' form, 50% of the points are content. 50% is content. And I had been winning with my delivery. So I could have, Come Home was an okay speech. It wasn't fabulous. David Brooks was right. It was an okay speech. So that night, people like Mark and Mary didn't necessarily, Mary had excellent, so Mark and the person who came in second, they may have been either from some story in the Bible, and they didn't do a good job preaching, and it's a very popular story, and you can go in so many directions with it, and my wife was so mad after the service saying, how could he do a bad sermon with that story? Because it's a story that every preacher uses, and just, you know, if you had a loss, use that one. And I can't remember the story now. So content is more important technically. But, you know, when judges are mesmerized by a magical delivery, sometimes they just score. But strict ones, Richard, it's content. You know, obviously both, but if you're low on content, there's a possibility that you could lose.
And just as a follow-up, the winner of the contest at Foxwoods, when this gentleman came out on the stage, he was in a wheelchair, and I thought to myself, how do you deliver an effective speech in a wheelchair? Aren't you literally handicapped in how you can deliver the speech? And I remember after listening to the content, I thought to myself, and he was like the third speaker, I said, this guy's going to win the contest.
Yeah.
Because the story was just remarkable.
Yeah.
And despite the limitations, and he moved incredibly well in a wheelchair, I mean, the story, to your point,
Yeah.
was just
It
magnificent.
was, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Questions from this? Yeah.
Nana, how do you select your opening statement? What triggers that? You had your story, but your opening statement was terrific. The irony of
Yeah.
the happiest days of your parents' lives. How do you come up with that or anything like it?
So tell me if what I'll do here, you know what this is from, okay? So watch me.
Paladin.
What is that?
Paladin.
007.
Oh, it was Paladin too.
Yeah. Right?
Before that.
So if you watch a 007 movie, right? You watch a 007 movie, straight into the action scene. Right? It's James Bond, some spectacular escape, then credits. Or Seinfeld. Straight into the living room, funny scene or whatever, credits. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it like this, but some people will start a speech with Mr. Contest Chair, ladies and gentlemen, and then start with their. And what I learned is to capture people's attention right away with something that makes them think or laugh. And if they laugh, then you're relaxed before you've even gotten in. Provocative statement. When I did 2007, Don't Be Fooled, my first speech, I started with, are you burdened by heavy credit card debt? Do you have difficulty with public speaking? Would you make a fool of yourself when conversing with the opposite sex? Everyone started laughing like, oh, where's this guy going with this? What is this, right? So then people were already relaxed, right? And so what did I say? Or would you make a fool of yourself when communicating with the opposite sex? And then I pulled out a little bottle of Simplex. If you answered yes to any of these questions, it's a simple solution to all of your problems. It's called Simplex, and it's like the pill for solving all your problems, right? Personal, professional, financial problems. Act now. Dial 1-800-SUCKERS. 1-800-SIMPLEX. And the first, I think I was speaker number 3. And the first 2 speakers were very serious. Very, and sometimes people think international speech contests, you have to be so serious. So they, by default, were kind of like the openers for me, even though they didn't mean to be, because they were so serious. And I was joking and laughing. I didn't even have a suit on, and it's because I used a prop in the speech, which I'll tell you about later. So I just think about what can grab the audience right away. What provocative statement can I use? I do that at work as well when I send out emails. I'm responsible for sending out emails on syndicated research to the entire marketing organization. Now, which email, and there's some people who do it very well in their constant contact, communication, etc. Which email would you open, at least? Even if you don't read the whole thing, would you open? March 31st report on the state of the union in healthcare. I work in healthcare, but I'm not going to open that. Because I don't want to hear that. What is that? So I'll put something in my email in the subject line like, do you know what they said about you? Oh, no one's opening it. And then let's see what we got. But by then, they've at least, I might as well read it. Right? So even in your emails and any communication, grab people. Right? If you're looking to go on a date or you approach someone, looks cute in the bar, whatever, something that's grabbing. Something different from, hey, how's it going? Something that's different. And if it's different, then it'll catch people's attention. And then you follow through with your story. Always a provocative question, a startling statistic, or jump right into your story. Straight into your story. When I was 10 years old, people would always ask me, hey, Nana, what do you want to be when you grow up? If you start your speech like that, even professionally, people are like, oh, where is it going with that? A speech on careers. Do people really do what they wanted to do when they were kids? Right? So let's say your speech is about finding magic at work. Do people really do what and they have statistics on it? And you start like that. Hey, when I was 5 years old, people would ask me, what do you want to be when you grow up? This is how I'd answer. And my dad would shake his head and say, you're not going to do anything like that. It's strict. Because most speakers, even if you think about professional speakers, or someone comes and speaks at your organization, hi, my name is John Smith, and today I'm here to talk to you about what I want to get through today. Today, no one cares what you want. No one in the audience cares what the speaker wants, right? And a lot of people start this dull way. Watch next time someone comes and speaks at your company or whatever. My name is this. Today I'm here to speak about that. We've all seen the agenda, so we know what you're here to speak about, right? So if you avoid those boring ways of opening your speech, whether it's in a contest or wherever you're speaking, you'll be one step ahead of the game. So a startling question, statistic, what jumps straight into your story. You had your hand up.
Yes, I did. You mentioned 3 pillars of success. What are the 3 pillars that you're gonna?
So the first one is a very obvious one, and that's to just sign up for the contest. Enter the contest
Oh, really?
so that you're committed and write the speech. My same friend, David Brooks, somebody asked him, and he wrote an article, and they asked, why? Because before LaShonda Rundles won, the only other winner, female winner, was in 1986. Yep, and she won, I think 2010, I believe 2010. And so someone asked, why aren't there more female world champions? And David Brooks said, because they don't enter the club contest. If you don't enter the club contest, you can't win. And that applies to everybody, not just, but that specific question was for females, but that applies to everybody. The second one we've touched a little bit is to use humor, to have fun on the stage. In the professional speaking world, they say that if you want to get paid, you need to use humor. And then in the Toastmasters contest world, if you want to win a contest, watch any of the world championships of public speaking and watch the top 3 winners. And count how many. Jeremy Donovan, who was here last time, has written an excellent book about how to win the world championship, and he's done all these studies and Excel spreadsheets about the number of laughs and all this. And, I mean, think about being the next. Some people don't like to watch the speaker before them, because they get nervous or whatever, you know. So, think about the speaker before you. So when I competed in 2007 at the regional level, I was speaker number 3, and Vikas Jingran, who went on to go on to the world championship and became the world champion, was speaking before me. So I was outside, kind of going through and inside the room, people were roaring with laughter. I mean, they were roaring. I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be tough. I didn't know what he was talking about. But I just assumed that he was really connecting because people were roaring with laughter. So you don't have to be a comedian, but humor is really... Now, humor, some people just say, how do I add humor to my speech? And in 1999, world champion of public speaking, Greg Valentine, always said, you don't add humor, you uncover humor. And you uncover humor with content that's already there, with your dialogue, right? Many speakers like to narrate their stories. So they'll say something like, I walked up to Mary and I nervously asked her to go out with me. And she said no with a look of disgust on her face. So that's narration. So what's more effective? That, or I walked up to Mary and said, do you think maybe, like, do you think we could go out on Saturday? So you don't have to say I nervously asked her to go out. Just say it nervously, right? And then you don't have to say she said no with a look of disgust on her face. Just, you know, move a little bit over so you've asked Mary, and then, heck no, I'm not going out. So you have the look of disgust, and you have how she said no. So you can just do that in your dialogue. So you don't have to narrate. Dialogue is the best way of making sure that the humor is captured. And then the third one is to practice. Yeah, it's to practice. When I say Dave and Carmine, and even in 2007, I went to, what did you call that thing you used to throw together, Dave, before the district contest, where people could come and practice with it?
The Battle of the
Battle of the Border. Battle of the Border. I remember Richard was at the first Battle of the Border, and he was also a judge. So people would sit in the audience and give feedback. So you see that Dave recorded the speech, right? So there's a camera on me. And then there's a technique I learned as well, to have one camera on you and one camera on the audience. So then you can watch the speech, so you can listen to the speech with the audience view and see how they're responding. So if there's a line that you have in your speech and you see most of the people looking confused, then it's like, well, then maybe that's not that clear, right? And if you go to, before the district, I would go to neighboring clubs and I would have a round robin and get feedback and feedback and feedback. And when people give you feedback, and this is in life in general, just, yeah, thanks for the feedback. You can decide what you want to do with the feedback. I mean, some of the feedback I threw it out. Like somebody said, when you're talking about the ab roller, when I was a sophomore in college, I bought an ab roller because I wanted six-pack, abs of steel, right? So I thought I could get abs of steel by exercising 5 minutes a day with a stupid ab roller. So I used the ab roller, I was doing it, and then after a few weeks, I took off my shirt and I looked in the mirror and I was like, wow, man, this is amazing. But my revelry was really interrupted by the sound of my alarm clock waking me up. And when I looked under my pajamas, I revealed my highly disappointing Pillsbury Doughboy light pouch. And when I did the speech and I said that, I was actually wearing this t-shirt under my sweater, and I poked my belly out and so on. That's the best product I've ever used. And when I did the area contest for that speech, I had a white Pillsbury Doughboy t-shirt. And my mentor Steve Rock had recommended that I go on, but people couldn't really see the Doughboy. So I had to quickly go and buy a blue one to make things would go through, man. So I went to go and buy a blue one so that it would be more visible. But if you watch my 2007 area contest speech, the video, and then you watch the district contest speech, same title, same topic, you would think that they're two different speakers. Because people hammer it. They hammer it. How can you make it better? How can you make it resonate? How should you enter the stage? What will resonate with the audience the most? What can you cut out? Cut it out. And when I'm competing, I don't even want to see the red light. I know I speak at 130 words per minute. So if I'm to give a 7-minute speech, right, that's what? 7 times 100, 700, 210, 910 at the most, but my speeches are usually around 800 words because I want to pause like what you said. I don't want to be concerned that I'm going to go over time. So when I'm saying my call, visit, sing with them, the song. If the red light goes on, it's going on, and I can say, it just went on, the song of life. Because I know it's not going to take me 30 seconds to say that. So I don't play with time because people are going to laugh. And you don't want to step on people's laughter, as they call it. No, don't laugh. I have to finish. Let them laugh as long as the laugh is going to go on. So I don't want to see the red light. So I know how fast I speak. So each of my speeches is written, around 800 words or so. And everyone has a different style. So for my 45-minute keynotes, I know basically what I'm going to say. But for my 7-minute contest speeches, it is verbatim. I mean, sometimes I have to be careful not to say comma or semicolon. It's verbatim. If someone gives me a good line, I'm going to say that line. So a lot of time is spent on writing and crafting the speech. I deliver it exactly the way it was written. I wish I had the Song of Life script here, when I could prove it to you. It's exactly the way it's written on the page. Everyone has a different style, but that's how sometimes you tell speakers, send me a script, and they say, I don't have a script. So how are you improving the speech? Everyone has a different style, but I have a script. So the practice is really out of control. Living, breathing, eating the speech, people giving you feedback, and you have to have a tough skin because people would say, oh, that wasn't good, that, and you decide. So with the ab roller, one of my friends said, bring an ab roller onto the stage and do the exercises. Show them what you were going through. I mean, this is really, and I was like, yeah, okay. That's a dumb idea. So obviously I didn't bring an ab roller. How are you going to bring an ab roller onto the stage, right? But people, the only reason that your friends are giving you these ideas is because they're fired up for you. I mean, they want you to do well, right? So
it's good that you chose the ab roller because everyone knows exactly.
Everyone knows exactly what
that
that
was
is.
Something that no one knew about.
Yeah, exactly.
bring it.
Exactly. So now when I talk about exercise, I talk about P90X or Insanity, because people see those commercials, right? So they can relate. So it's to actually enter the